We have 2.3 million people in jail in this country. That's an unheard of statistic. We imprison more people than any other country on earth. Are we really a nation of bad people? Are we a nation of criminals? I don't think so. I think what we are is we are a nation that has become addicted to the idea that criminal sanctions are the way that we should run our society.
All right, so the concept of overcriminalization has 4 points. One is Congress passes too many criminal laws. The second is that it passes too many overlapping criminal laws. Lots of different laws govern the same conduct. The third is when it does pass criminal laws, Congress doesn't clearly define what it takes to violate the law. And the fourth part of overcriminalization is that when it creates crimes, Congress imposes far too heavy penalties for the crimes that it does create.
Most folks think, well, criminals are the bad guys, and we don't have anything to worry about from overcriminalization or from these vague laws, but because the prosecutors aren't going to come after us because we're not bad. But that's a lot of faith to put into prosecutors. And if you're running a business or you have a job at a business that involves discretion and the business arouses the ire of some prosecutor with an agenda, you could be facing criminal law sanctions under vague laws that don't let you know that what you were doing was criminal in the first place.
I've been doing this for 25 years now, and I have very often over those years been asked by executives, PD, how, please give me some advice. I don't want to make a mistake. I have a family, I have a career, what should I do? And I've always told them the same thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing and you'll be okay. I sort of feel like maybe that advice now is not entirely complete. Yes, do the right thing, but some prosecutor might still think that you should have done something differently or that you could have done something differently, and you might still be in trouble. It doesn't exactly have the same sort of comforting tone that I would like to give them.
I don't know how your average law-abiding citizen actually determines what's criminal and what's not. At this point, we have 4,450 federal criminal laws on the books. And I'm pretty sure that I don't know all of them, and I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I don't know how your average citizen would know all of them. But it's not even just the 4,450 that's in the U.S. Code. We have, scholars have estimated, another 100,000, 200,000, maybe 300,000 federal laws that are hidden in our federal regulations. And I say hidden not because I'm trying to be provocative, but because our own government hasn't been able to count them all.
Obviously this, our country is nowhere near what Stalinism was, so I'm making that analogy, but I will tell you that the head of the secret police under Joseph Stalin said, bring me the man, I'll find the crime. And that when you have a criminal law that's so broad that covers nearly everything and so open to so many different interpretations, then you end up in a situation where anyone can be indicted for almost anything, and that gives almost unlimited power to prosecutors.
Overcriminalization and overregulation of business inhibits economic activity. And when economic activity is inhibited, the country can't grow, jobs can't be created, companies can't thrive.
Because of the tremendous amount of overcriminalization that we have in the law today, I would advise business owners to be particularly wary of any regulations that might be passed by the federal government or by state legislatures that pertain to their particular business. It's not enough just to think of things like fraud and other types of conduct that would be criminal, ordinarily be criminal in nature, but to look also to a whole variety of administrative rules that are set out by regulatory agencies which would entrap the unwary into potential criminal conduct.
I think that it's important for business, individual businesses and business organizations to engage with the government because as well-meaning as a government agency may be, it may not be possible for them to understand the effect of their regulations or their actions on business if business isn't willing to come forward and explain it. The Chamber of Commerce, for example, has committed a lot of resources to educating the public, educating the government about the effect that regulation has on business and the effect that it has on their ability to hire people and restart the economy.
I think that, if anything, it's important that if something is serious enough to send someone to prison, it ought to be set forth in a statute passed by Congress and evaluated as to the necessity of a criminal penalty, rather than simply something that is promulgated by some regulatory agency, the violation of which is then by statute made into a crime. We need to have crimes that are limited to those things that are serious violations against the public safety, and leave other kinds of conduct which may have an effect either economically or environmentally or otherwise to civil penalties, administrative actions, and handling and remedies such as that.
Well, I think legislators need to think about four things whenever they are considering creating new crimes. First of all, simply ask yourself whether or not it should be a crime, whether or not it's the type of activity that historically and traditionally we've thought of as a criminal act. Secondly, ask yourself whether or not you've included the appropriate mens rea requirement in the statute you're drafting. Thirdly, ask yourself whether or not it needs to be a crime at this level. If you're a federal legislator, for example, do you really need a federal crime for it, or are there already state and local statutes that govern it? And fourth, if it does need to be a crime and you have included the appropriate mens rea, and it does need to be a crime at that particular level, ask yourself what the appropriate punishment is. Maybe incarceration, for example, is not actually the right punishment.
Well, the best way to protect yourself from federal prosecution is to know every law that's in the book and make sure that you never come close to violating them. But for the most part, real people can't do that. And so I have had conversations with clients where we've talked about how they stay on the right side of the law. And it's really a hard conversation to have because the laws are so complex and they're so vague that you often can't be sure that you're staying on the right side of the law. And staying away from a federal prosecution will take lots and lots of effort in terms of compliance. And maybe that's what the federal prosecutors and the federal government wants. But I think if they really understood the efforts that it takes to comply with the massive set of federal criminal laws that are out there, that people would think twice and say, maybe the system ought to be changed a little bit because it's just too hard and it's really not serving any purpose.
You know, when I think about the various groups that are coming on to some of the briefs that we're doing, when I think about the recent hearings by the House Judiciary Committee, really, and we got to see this, we got to see hearings both before and after the Congress changed from, in the most recent cycle, from from the Democratic control to Republican control. It was very interesting to see both the chair and the ranking member coming together on their concern about how Congress is drafting these laws and how we're seeing this overcriminalization phenomenon. And I think what it shows is that when you have clear injustice, then the arc of injustice bends to the point where left meets right. And that's where we are in this country now. We are beginning to see a consensus that we've gone too far with criminalization.